darling, yes, it's me. Yes, I'm just going to get on a coach. No, I'm not going away. I'm doing This Is Your Life at 7 o'clock. Yes, well, I do it every week, didn't you know? Yes, well, I'm going to get on this coach, you see, and we're going to follow... Well, I what? Some cat food and bread and... Look, I've only got 28 minutes to go. All right, I'll try and remember. Yes, thank you. Cat food? How am I going to get cat food? I'm on next with This Is Your Life. Now, what would you say if I came at you with the big red book? Yes, I thought you might say that. Let's hope I get a more positive response from my subject in just a few minutes.
Now on TVS, Michael Aspel dons yet another disguise to present that big red book in This Is Your Life.
This Is Your Life, and tonight we're going to surprise a plumber, which is just as well because we're going to have a great wallow in sentiment tonight. All around here you see some fabulous football faces from the 50s, the time of the coronation, the Festival of Britain. These are men who are legends in their own lifetime, none more so than the man we're here to honour. He thinks he's coming to London to do a sports programme for Thames Television. What he doesn't know is that we are following him. He's in a car just in front of us, and when he stops, so do we, and we make the tackle then. Right, lads. Tom, I know that you were never booked on the field in your whole career, but tonight's a bit of an exception because I'm here to say, Tom Finney of Preston North End in England, this is your life.
Well, thank you very much, Michael. What a surprise that.
I'm glad
I'm really hooked on this. Hello, George. Hello, Dad.
There's a lot more all waiting to see you back in our studio.
Well. I fancy that. Gee whiz. Hello, Neil. I'm fine, Zach.
Good to see you, John.
Well, I wondered why I said she was going to Lytham St Anne's this morning.
There's a lot of handshaking to be done down in our studios. That's where we're going to kick off the programme. So if you're ready and fit, we'll get down there.
Right. Thank you very much, Michael. Thank you. Well,
Tom, you can see that your home side has turned out for you tonight, the Finney family. But first, thanks to the names that go with those famous faces. Ex-England skippers Billy Wright and George Hardwick. Matt Lockwood. Neil Franklin. Maurice Scott. Johnny Haynes. Will Mannion. Ivor Broadis. And Ronnie Clayton. And here with their wives, your brothers Dennis and Roy, with their husbands, your sisters Madge, Peggy, Doris and Edith, and with their wives, your nephews Joe, David and Robert. And of course, the lady you selected as your teammate 43 years ago, your wife Elsie. Now, Elsie, we've some of the greatest names from international soccer with us tonight, but there is a keen supporter, isn't there, you know of, from a very different world.
One of Tom's greatest fans. And he's also a famous film star.
And if you look at the screen, Tom, we caught up with him at half-time during filming in Paris. It is Omar Sharif.
Hello, Tom. Of course, you wouldn't remember me, because in the days that I met you, you were much more famous than I was, because I wasn't in films yet, and you were already a very great football player. You were in Egypt stationed during and just after the war. And you were part of a terrific football team, which was a selection of all the armed forces stationed in Egypt. That was called the Wanderers. And one day you were playing against a team, an Egyptian team, the national club, which was the best club we had in Egypt in those days. And I was sitting on the reserve bench, shaking in my boots because I was scared they would call me to come in and play. Because, you see, I was back, and I knew you would have run circles around me. And I watched from the bench, just hoping no one would get hurt and no one would ask me to come in. Tom, have a good evening. I wish I could have been with you tonight. I haven't seen you since, but you were a terrific football player and I would think a wonderful person. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Omar Sharif. Well, that was a narrow escape for Omar Sharif. Did you have any idea of that story, Tom?
No, I didn't actually until I read it in some magazine that he was keen on football and had watched me play when I was stationed at Abbasiyah Barracks just outside Cairo.
Well, Omar Sharif and Paris, it's all a bit rich for our palate, so let's try something a bit more down to earth.
How about a nice big bowl of shredded wheat?
Or how about 50 nice big balls of shredded wheat?
Well, let's get to the crunch with your son Brian and daughter Barbara, and with them Brian's wife Marlene, and the children Donna and Paul, and Barbara's husband Jim. Now, Brian and Barbara, what's all this about your dad stuffing down a wheat field? I mean, even real men like me can only manage 3.
That's right, Michael. But I think that day we went through about 50 boxes of shredded wheat and a gallon of milk.
When was this then, Barbara?
I think it was in 1955. Brian was about 7 and I'd be 5. And we went down to London to do the commercial for shredded wheat. But we didn't realise it would take so long.
Well, we have a picture of you, in fact, from that commercial, taken shortly before you exploded, I imagine. No? Still, Tom, a diet like that might account for your remarkable sudden burst of speed. Now, where were we? Oh, yes, Tom Finney. This is your life, and the future England legend was born on April the 5th, 1922, at 21 St Michael's Road in the Preston district of Deepdale, only a goalkeeper's kick from Preston North End's Deepdale ground. That's you, aged 7, pictured with your sisters and your late brother, Joe. Now, Peggy, where was the setting for that family portrait?
It's taken near to Granny's, outside a chip shop.
Well, more high-energy crowd then. But, Tom, I mean, how old were you when you first tasted the thrill of going to Deepdale?
Well, I think the first time was about 5 when my father took me to watch Preston play, and Alex James then, of course, was a great favourite at Preston. There was a great player too, and from that day on, I mean, I just fancied myself as another budding Alex James, and of course signed for Preston as an inside forward.
Yeah, well, don't go ahead too fast. The story has yet to be told. Now, your father, Alfred Finney, ran a local junior soccer team, and there you are, age 11, with your first medal already showing us why they call it Proud Preston. 1936, and aged 14, you're picked for the Preston schoolboys team to play West Ham schoolboys in London. There's the team of half a century ago before boarding the steam train. And that's you, still in short pants, well, shortish anyway. But who is this over your right shoulder? Because of him, the young Tom Finney never got to kick a ball in that prestige match.
Sorry about that, Dom, but they selected me at inside left instead of you.
Well, how could they do it? Still, he is your first reserve tonight, Tommy Huff.
Yeah.
Well, Tommy, obviously, you both competed for the same position, but I know it didn't end there because you both joined the club as part-time pros. And how much a week did you get?
10 shillings a week.
10 bob,
10 shillings.
50p. Still competing for the same position?
Yes. One match at Manchester, a lad named Eddie Burke got hurt, and the following Thursday, Tom took his place in Deepdale, and that was it. He was born.
The right winger.
A great player.
Yeah. Thank you, Tommy Huff. Now, Tom, you were offered full-time professional terms with the club, but by then, age 14, you'd become an apprentice plumber. You opt for a bit of security and you stay part-time pro to complete your apprenticeship. And one winter's day in 1938, you're called out to deal with ice-blocked guttering at a doctor's surgery in Watling Street Road.
And Tom, you didn't half put the wind up the neighbours when you climbed on the surgery roof.
Yes, the plumber who taught you all you know about burst pipes and ball cocks, Tommy Johnson. Is everyone up there called Tom?
Yes.
And Tommy, you were there that day 50 years ago. How was it that Tom scared the neighbours?
Well, it was winter time and there'd been a lot of snow about. And the boss sent Tom and I to this doctor's surgery in Watling Street Road, which had a glass conservatory attached where the patients used to wait. And over the top of that, this roof had a lot of snow on it and it looked likely to come through the glass roof. And Tom said, I'll do it. And he goes up the ladder. He walked straight onto this slated, snow-covered roof and started sweeping the snow like he was sweeping the pavement. And one of the neighbours saw him, got on the phone to the boss and said, will you get this lad down before he kills himself? And by the time the boss came, Tommy was down, of course, and he moved the snow and he was all safe and sound. But I thought that was an early example of his footwork and balance, which he developed to a great extent, you know, later on. Everybody knew about it then.
Well said. Thank you very much. Tommy Johnson. Thank you. Now, Elsie, it was around that time, wasn't it, that you and Tom met at a church hall dance?
Yes, it was. We actually had a foursome of us, and we'd made a date, but I actually finished up with the wrong man, which was him. That's it.
Don't go into too much detail. I think we get the story, yes. But, now, the outbreak of war comes between the young lovers, and Tom, you become a serving Tommy. You're posted to the Middle East in the Royal Armoured Corps. And as we heard earlier from that great little fullback, Omar Sharif, you developed your skills playing alongside other soccer stars in uniform. You see action in Italy as a tank driver with the 9th Queen's Royal Lancers, often under heavy shell fire. The Allied forces get bogged down in mud after torrential storms, and you looked set for a winter in a far-from-Deepdale front line.
And Tom, we couldn't believe our luck when the top brass pulled us from the front line to play for the 8th Army soccer team.
So together you saw more cheerful action, ex-Glasgow Rangers and Scotland international. Of course, it's Willie Thornton. So, Willie, you were pulled from the front line to play at Rimini, but it was hardly a safe result, was it?
Not really, because there's a vast crowd there, and a few poor unfortunate soldiers climbed over the wall and stood on landmines, and we had to sweep the ground before we actually started the game. Then later on I caught up with Tom and England and Scotland internationals when he played at Hampden and tortured the Scottish defence, and little did the huge Scottish crowd realise that he got free boarding digs from myself in my home, which we thoroughly enjoyed.
Good job they didn't know. Thank you very much indeed. And someone who would agree that that is another Army teammate who couldn't miss tonight, your old England pal, the great Joe Mercer. Thank you, Joe Mercer. I'm really fond. Well, now, throughout the war, you've courted Elsie by airmail, and in 1945, you returned to Preston to make her your wife, here at Emmanuel Parish Church, Preston, on the 1st of November, 1945. Elsie, where did you go for your honeymoon?
We actually had 3 days in Bispham. But we didn't get 3 days because Tom played in a game of football at Manchester. So I spent 1 day in Manchester and 2 days in Bispham. And that was it.
But De Mob does finally roll on, and the local lad comes home. Stretching ahead of you 2 decades of glory with Preston North End and England. You and your colleagues here got near pop star adulation. The jam-packed terraces roared for more, and you were happy to oblige.
3-1, but England's 10 men weren't done yet, and it was Finney who made it 3-2 with a lovely lob.
blew the referee's coil at Deepdale, it was evident that the Gale was going to play a big part in what might otherwise have been a vintage cup tie between two classic teams, Preston North End and Tottenham Hotspur. England outside right Finney required 3 men to look after him most of the afternoon. Spurs left back Willis brought Finney down from behind. The referee gave a penalty. 3 times the wind blew the ball from the spot before Finney scored.
Almost at once, England in white shirts began to look dangerous. They were on the attack when a foul by Campanale against Finney led to a penalty. To the great annoyance of at least one Spanish spectator. Pray, be seated.
And so it continued until just before half-time, when from an opening by Lawton, Finney scored.
Well, 76 caps. 76 caps and a record 30 goals for England, plus one very rare honour. Monty himself signed his programme at Hampden Park to you for the man who fought with me in the 8th Army. Did that just come out of the blue?
Yeah, well, it did, really, but we were introduced to... Willie was playing in this game, actually, when we played England-Scotland at Hampden Park, and we were introduced to Field Marshal Montgomery prior to the game, and he just said to me, like, when he was shaking hands with us, and I see you beat these buggers today. I suppose he said the same thing to Willie as well. But, and then after the game, he came in and said that he would send me... He gave me his actual programme signed, and said he would send me a signed photograph of himself, which he did.
And you've still got them? But as well as the glamour of international matches, there was the day-to-day business of getting on with playing for Preston. 472 games, 210 goals, no less. And who better to bring back memories of those halcyon days than that impeccably behaved young man who played just behind you at right half. Yes, it's the man who says he's had more clubs than Jack Nicklaus, the Doc, Tommy Docherty himself.
Hello, Tom. It's good to be back at Deepdale again, of course, where we spent many, many happy years together. Great days, and of course, with us tonight, we have some of the old stalwarts from those days, of course. Number one, our goalkeeper, none other than Jimmy Gooch. Fullbacks, Joe Walton, Billy Scott, and our Scottish defender, Joe Dunn, of course. And who else? Baxter. Where's Baxter? I know where he'll be. He'll be in the bath, having a fag.
We used to enjoy a smoke after the game in the bath, Tom. But the bath of now is not as big as the one we used to have.
Come on, Jimmy.
Because of injury, Tom Beattie will be replaced today by Harry Andrews.
Tom, that was all of the reception I got, and I came on instead of you.
Well, it would have cut the gate in half, wouldn't it, Tom? Never mind the booze. 3 cheers for Tom, lads. Hip, hip. Hooray! Hip, hip. Hooray! Hip, hip. Hooray!
I'm afraid that Tommy can't be with us tonight, but your teammates can run out again. They are Harry Anders, Jimmy Baxter, Joe Dunn, Jimmy Gooch, Ken Horton, Angus Morrison, Will Scott, Tommy Thompson, Joe Walton, Charlie Wayman, there's only one Tommy in that lot. Now, Nat Lofthouse, back in those days, you recall a very odd payday, right?
I can remember one payday we used to go out doing testimonial games with Tommy, and I used to travel around. And he picked me up at 12 o'clock on a Wednesday lunchtime at Bolton. We travelled to Grimsby before the motorways. We played the game at Grimsby. We travelled back after the game, and we got home at Bolton at 3 o'clock at morning. And you know what we got each? £2 a cod. but it were fresh.
And you'd certainly earned your place. No. Sorry. Tom, there is another soccer legend who, alas, can't be with us tonight because he has to be in Johannesburg. But let's just catch a mesmerising glimpse of your joint soccer skills.
Matthews on the right wing was as tricky as ever and kept on making openings. Then came the only score of the match, a goal by Finney.
And on the line from Johannesburg, who else but Sir Stanley Matthews?
Hello, Tom. I'm sorry I can't be with you tonight to share in your joy. Remember when we played for England? We travelled all over the place together and shared the same hotel rooms. Remember all those bananas? Cast your mind back to the 1950 World Cup in Rio. The food was so poor. We ate bananas all day long. Okay, Tom, have a great time. I will be thinking about you. So long, old pal.
Thank you, Sir Stanley Matthews in Johannesburg. Well, they made a change from shredded wheat to all the bananas. Now, your success story, Tom, doesn't end with the game's final whistle because you went into partnership with your brother, Joe, as plumbing and electrical contractors, a business which flourishes to this day. Now, these days, your late brother's son, Joe, is in the business, and Joe, Tom, has retired, hasn't he?
Yes, and wherever we travel throughout the country, people ask how he's going on. They all ask about him. And I was impressed not very long ago, and one of the old chaps said, I believe Tommy has retired finally. I said, yes, he's definitely gone. I said, he's only starting work at 7:30 now instead of 20 past.
Now, in 1954 and 1957, you were voted Footballer of the Year. In 1961, Tom, you were awarded an OBE for services to soccer, and in 1979, made a Freeman of Preston. 1982, and you're chosen to lead out the teams of the England versus Scotland centenary match, hearing again the kind of roar that so often in the past heralded your own Wembley appearances. And there are a couple of fellows who'd love nothing more than to run out of that tunnel with you as teammates for England's next match. From Anfield, Liverpool and England's John Barnes.
Tom, I was very honoured and flattered when our styles were compared. And if I could achieve in my career half of what you have, I'd be more than happy with that. I'd just like to wish you a great night.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Someone else from Old Trafford, Manchester United and England captain Brian Robson.
You know, I've always admired you and I've respected you as a person, not just as a player. When I've looked at you on TV programmes and you've done interviews and everything, you've always come across great as far as I'm concerned. You've never got a bad word to say about anybody. You always support football and football's always been the first love of you. But like I say, I've always respected and admired what you've done through the game, and I hope you have a tremendous night tonight.
Thank you.
All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian Robson and John Barnes. Now, Tom, what you weren't aware of in your playing days at Preston was a schoolboy fan who was to graduate from the terraces of Deepdale to the seat of government. He had a stand seat for tonight, but parliamentary business means he can't be here in person. But from the Department of Energy, where he is Her Majesty's Secretary of State, the Right Honourable Cecil Parkinson.
Hello, Tom. I find people are surprised when they hear that I'm a lifelong Preston North End supporter, because I lived in the South for a long time now. But what they never had the chance of doing was what I did, which was of seeing you play football for Preston. And I'll never forget the goal you scored against Manchester City, when you beat about half a dozen people and thrashed the ball from the corner of the penalty area right past Bert Troutman. But it wasn't just your football, Tom, that attracted so many people to become fans of yours. It was the way you behaved, the fact that although you got a lot of stick, you never retaliated. You retaliated in your own way. You played better and better and scored more and more goals. So I wish you a very happy evening.
Thank you, Cecil Parkinson. And talking of fan worship, let us meet someone who can safely say the great Tom Finney is a fan of hers, your 3-year-old granddaughter, Lauren. But Barbara and Jim here have a son too, and who knows, maybe one day he'll come to the rescue of Preston and England, your 6-year-old grandson, Lee. pride of Preston, this is your life.